and she actually comes into her body, and she is gendered, embodied in her gender, that as a natural function, her libido is homosexually organized, and it connects to the mother. It turns to the mother because that's who she is. That's archetypally who she is and how she came in. So what happens when what goes on there? Then she sees like legs and okay, so then we have this idea that Jung, so we're going to bring in Jung here, because Jung is the one who can help us sort of understand what's going on here in a more teleological way, meaning how I mentioned earlier, like it's about that this romance is the template for later romance and for self-realization. So I'm going to try to do this, but oh, this is something I was supposed to say in the beginning that I forgot, which is that I've spent a lot of my time and my work, in my inner work, working on this stage 1 and stage 2. And I've been like cramming the last month on stage 3. It's like, Sandra, you know, you won't be here that much longer, you better get with stage 3 before you go. And you've been working on all of this stuff, you know, like we know the trauma, like can we get to the, you know, the pleasure zone? Like, let's get to the, what have we been doing this for all these years? You know, just to, you know, stay at the breast? I don't think so. This is like, you know, like let's get with the program. So I've been working really hard. It was very thrilling to have Wonder Woman's help and the legs. But I really don't have the felt sense of this in the way that I do about the trauma. I just don't. I haven't been there in that way. But, you know, there's some signs of life down there in my body. Lots of signs of life, actually. I'm going to try to speak this idea, and I know there's other people here who know this stuff and can help me. You know, if I head off, if I make a right turn. So what happens here is Jung has this idea about the heavenly parents, the primal parents, the heavenly archetypal parents, who are always engaged in whatever that thing is, what they do. Yeah, right. They're always engaged in coitus. Okay, that's a nice. Yes, approved word. And you know, and the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and everything that's like always, you know, fructifying in the universe and in the world and everything is coming from this, moment by moment by moment by moment. And there's this idea that that we little humans are fascinated with this moment of creation, and this moment of origin, and particularly with our own, with the moment of our own creation, the moment of our own, whatever gave rise to me, like how did I get here, like, and there's an impulse to want to participate in the act of our own creation. And so what happens at this genital stage of development is this fascination with this primal scene, this scene where the archetypal parents, you know, represented by the literal parents, but, you know, they're like a poor representation usually, you know, because for the feeling, like this, it's like the heavenly parents, the king and queen, wanting to get in there and participate in that and feel the experience of it. And if you're a little lesbian girl, the way that you do that is by imagining yourself into the position of the Heavenly Father, who is hot for the Heavenly Mother, or the king who's hot for the queen. And that's how this experience is felt psychically and in the body. It's like if you're a lesbian, you feel like a guy. You feel like a guy, but you're not a guy. If everything went okay in the first couple of stages, you actually know you're a girl. You're a girl, but you in your psyche, in your mind, you're the guy, and you're hot for the girl, the mother, and that's how that's getting played out psychologically, and the turn on is in participating in that way. The fantasy of being the king to mommy's queen. Now, I want to say about this that, there's this idea about butch and femme, and like, okay, what about femi girls? And I feel like I'm qualified to talk about this because, I definitely can do that thing. And I have these photographs of lesbians from history, and there's one who I've been trying to talk to and work with, named Mary Wollstonecraft, who in the picture looks really, really super butchy. And so I've been like in an engagement with her in an active imagination, and it's real erotic, and it's a turn on, and I'm her girl, and it's like, so the ego, like here in this case, like, is this how it works? The ego, my ego in this case, is identifying with the mother, and Mary Wollstonecraft as being the father, but the and the lover, but the fact that I can imagine both positions. In other words, I'm receiving her. I'm turned on, being like seduced by her, and having her like kind of say, you're going to let me do the thinking. That's what she said. Oh, that really turned me on. It's like, oh, at last. And you just need to be a hot babe. It's like, wow.
You can be in your body and she'll do your thinking.
Exactly. And it was like, whoa, what a concept. That was really thrilling. But the fact that I could imagine that means she's there too in my psyche. Just because I'm presenting them, or in that particular imagination, I'm that, doesn't mean I'm just that. There's both things going on, and within the psyche, they're coupling. And I can move back and forth between those two locations. And that's what gay people do. That's what we do erotically when we engage with others and in ourselves. And my understanding is that these various paths to self-realization, like if you look at Tibetan Thangkas, and they have something called the Yab Yum, which is like the supposedly male and supposedly female, it's highly questionable often, in this sort of copulating stance. And they are meditating on that as a way towards self-realization. Well, I'm suggesting they're meditating on this, that the more capacity one has to get these two together, these two energies, these two opposing energies, which could also be like good and evil, or any kind of opposites that interact with each other, to get those two opposing energies like dancing together, that's the path. That's the path. So one of the things that can happen for lesbians often, and this is pretty epidemic at this point, there's often, if things are really going wrong in the early stages, and the heteronormative oppression like creates a real intense concreteness in the person's mind, then when she hits this stage, and she feels like the guy with the mommy, then she gets confused. Like, I'm not a girl. I must not be a girl. There's something, I shouldn't be in this body. There's something wrong with my body. I must be And then like we see this, like I must be trans, I must be genderqueer, I must be boy, but I, whatever it is, I feel better when I'm a guy, when I'm identified with guyness and masculinity. Well, yeah, of course, at this concrete level, and that's where the eros is. That's the erotic experience. That's where I want to be. But there's this identification of the body, this like I say this is, again, it's a failure of the homosexual imagination to have been cultivated to be able to, imagine, like, okay, my body is a female body, but I can imagine myself as a guy. I don't have to, like, make it literal. But unfortunately right now, that's, those of you who are therapists, and if you work with lesbians, or people who were born as women who have eros with other females, you will see like, tremendous resistance often to identifying as a lesbian. It's like, no, I'm not, because that means I'm a woman. I'm not. I feel like a guy. So that's why I think this is what it's really important to kind of understand this, what can happen here in this situation psychologically with that. And we're coming back to the double and the twins. I just want to add this extra layer because we said like the heavenly parents are like they're procreating, they're doing coitus, they're procreating, but they're really just a form of the twins. They're just taking on that particular, because the twins are always like opposites, yet the same. That's part of their mystery. And in this case, they're taking on this particular configuration for the purpose of self-realization to help bring that about. But it's really the twins.
I'm so glad you said that. Just because I was having the hardest time having to think, okay, I've got to have this archetype, type of the king and the queen in my head, and I just don't have. I mean, I don't. Maybe it's there somewhere, but it's so much easier for me to relate to the archetype of the doubles, same-sex doubles, than having to imagine a king and a queen. The heterosexuality of it is just too maybe traumatic.
Yeah, probably some trauma there, and having to really get literal in your body about what it was like to come from, literal heterosexual procreation for a gay person. There's a lot to not want to go near.
Yeah. So anyway, I found it.
Yeah, that's.
comforting, so.
Yeah, that's Mitch Walker's idea, by the way. No.
Sandra, I have a question. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about, like when, because it seems like gay men, at least historically, kind of come into their own eros younger than some women, and like there are like some women who sort of seem like they're like kind of getting to their 20s, and then they kind of like, well, I didn't even know I had eros towards women. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that, especially in relationship to this stage of Oedipal experiences.
You're asking me my thoughts, and I'm like right away like,
Your feelings.
thoughts.
Okay.
Mary. Let's see. But feeling-wise, I'm wondering if anybody else wants to the subject.
Well, I mean, I think some piece of it that gets worked into the mix certainly is, culturally, where women's sexuality isn't supported or encouraged, or there's no cultivation of that. So I don't think it's just that, but I think that that's certainly part of the mix that's happening here.
Yeah, there's
I think part of it's just survival. Surviving to survive. I mean, that's, you know, it's changing.